Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another Ultimate Creative Chat. We are here today with Brandee Wilder from the Black Credit Conversation. And she is,
Hello.
yes, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me, girl. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. We could not wait to get you on here. Been trying, and we have been talking about this for a long time, but
Yes.
we finally made it happen. So we appreciate your presence.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, so Brandee talks with folks about the credit, okay?
Yes.
Credit, something that we need from time to time, something that we want to keep in good repair, but it's something that can be challenging sometimes. So she's
Yeah.
going to break some stuff down for us and tell us also how it relates to the business side of things. When we as entrepreneurs and business owners want to build our business credit, our personal credit can have something to do with that. So
hmm
she'll talk about that too. But Brandee, just tell us why this is such an important topic for you to begin with.
Well, 10 years ago, I was asked by someone very influential how my credit was. I was really stunned and I was embarrassed because I was kind of like, ooh, like, where did this come from? Right. And it was like, I didn't even respond. I didn't have an answer because I was so caught off guard. And she immediately said to me, fix your credit. Fix your credit, girl.
Mm,
She was like, you're an entrepreneur. You are a Black woman. She was like, so many doors will open when you have good credit. She was
mm,
like, I know a lot of times, see, in our community, we're taught initially, or at least I was, one, credit was a trap, right? So just stay away from it. Use cash, try to do everything with cash, don't get caught up in it. But that conversation enlightened me and helped me to understand a few things. There, first of all, even if you don't go into debt or try to access and utilize a lot of credit, there's really not a lot of things you can do as an adult without having to give your social security number to have your credit report pulled, right? That's lights, gas, an apartment, applying for a mortgage, applying for student loans, getting car insurance, and I could keep going on, right? And what I didn't understand is why there was never any emphasis put on the importance of having good credit. Because even if you don't utilize credit as a whole, you need a good credit report and you need to look like a responsible borrower just so you can have access to lower lending opportunities, which allows you to
mm-hmm.
have money, right? Because, see, I teach in my classes the lower your credit score, the higher your interest rate. And that's something I have people, whether I'm speaking to adults, whether I'm speaking to middle schoolers, high schoolers, elementary school kids, I say, repeat after me. So we go
Mm-hmm.
to everybody that's watching, repeat after me. The lower your credit score, the higher your interest rate. And what
That's
that
right.
means is if you're paying a higher interest rate because your credit score is lower, then that's money that's coming out of your family that could be used to help you create wealth or to help you pay your bills or sustain your monthly financial obligations. So it's
That's
not
right.
all the time the emphasis being put on getting into debt. I believe in being a good steward. I believe in being responsible with credit usage, but I also believe that the worst time to try to look for an umbrella is when it's already raining, right?
Mm,
So credit is an umbrella and you want
mm-hmm.
to have access to as much of it and you want to have access to as much credit that has a lower interest rate as possible so that when you do need it it's there. The worst time to try to apply for credit is when you need it, right?
Yes.
That's the worst time because not only is there a level of anxiety and frustration and nervousness that's involved, you also are up against a gun of time. You are
Yep.
nervous, you can't sleep, sometimes you can't eat, you worrying, you praying, you trying to hope, but some things you don't have to do that with. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
worry about getting wet when the rain comes if you know you keep an umbrella in the car. And then some people keep it in the trunk, but I learned I was like, you know what? It's better to keep it on the back seat on the floor. Why? Because if I got to get out the car to go in the trunk to get the umbrella and it's already raining, I'm still gonna get wet.
That's
So
right.
I teach people go ahead and do what you have to do to have a good credit report and go ahead and apply for lines of credit and just sit it there, because
Mm-hmm.
you having access to credit is not an indicator that you'll get into financial trouble. So the Black Credit Conversation, it spun from that one 45-minute conversation, but it taught me, first of all, my worth, because I thought that if I wasn't white or I wasn't rich, I did not have access to even the possibility to have good credit. I never
Mm-hmm.
made the correlation between my choices and the lack of knowledge or information I had about credit with why my credit score was so low. Now, I know
Mm.
we're the same age pretty much. I'm just a little bit older than you, right? So
Right.
you remember when we got ready to go to school back in the day, you turned 18, they sent credit cards in the mail to you. You
Oh
know, it's
yeah.
not like now you didn't have to apply for a credit card. They knew you were 18, they sent you a card, and
Mm-hmm.
all you had to do, remember that? You called a number on the back of the card, the little sticker, you took it
Right.
off, and then you activated it, and now you have access to credit. Well, as minorities, and even not minorities, as I take this conversation around the world, I find out there's a disconnect between us being prepared for adulthood and even being fiscally responsible. So
Oh,
credit is
definitely.
important to all of us, but as Black women, as entrepreneurs, it is imperative that we get our credit straight so that we can have access to opportunity. The worst time to need it is when you need it. The worst time to try to get it is when you need it. So the
Yes.
Black Credit Conversation is about empowering people to see credit differently. All of the things that we think we know about credit, a lot of times when I sit and I talk to people and I coach people and I do classes, they are amazed at what they do not know or what they thought credit was or how they thought the credit rating system worked. And then they have to
Mm.
relearn and reprogram themselves. But having good credit and access to credit, it is empowering. It's
Yeah.
life changing because it changed my life. So, yeah, that's my spiel.
Well, that was a good spiel. We appreciate that. We'll be right back. Do you own a growing business? Danielle Rosser's clients get the keys to success when it comes to meeting their bottom line. Reach your intended audience with the proper branding, messaging, and storytelling when you partner with Ultimate Creative. So, what can Ultimate Creative do for you? Click the link in the description for a consultation and let's get started. Back to the show. But that was a lot of good information. I was just going to ask, how do people begin to educate themselves on credit? Because you are an educator. You're a credit educator. You don't fix people's credit. You're
Right,
not one of those people that you can go to and say, "Hey, can you help me fix my credit?"
right,
So how
right.
how can people begin to understand what it all means and the importance?
Well, first of all, they should go to my website, blackcreditconversation.com, and sign up for credit tips. And then follow me on all my
Hmm.
social media handles, which are Black Credit Conversation or the Black Credit Conversation, because I'll give them tips and information. Also,
Okay.
they can reach out to me because sometimes I do family discussions. I don't do as much one on one coaching anymore because I don't have the time, but one day I hopefully will. But if you want to get started, you have to go online and you have to start researching the questions that you have. Like like we talk about YouTube University, we talk about Google. You can learn so much
Mm-hmm.
online by taking the time, but it's about knowing the right questions to ask, right?
Mm.
Because there's right now, and you have to be careful. And even with me, like I tell people, look, if when we have a session, I say, now you hear what I said, now go back and research it for yourself, because I don't want you to
Mm-hmm.
just take me at face value. Because when you go online, I can tell you, yes, you're trying to start with healing and repairing your credit. Don't go off and try to pay off collections because it's not going to raise your credit score. I can tell you that. But now, if you take that information from one of our conversations and you Google, why shouldn't I pay off my collections when trying to repair my credit? Google's going to give you thousands of explanations as to why you shouldn't. And that's going to help to verify what I've taught you. Because,
Mm-hmm.
so first of all, the very first thing you do after you follow me on social media and go to my webpage, then you go and you pull your credit reports, your Equifax, your Experian, and your TransUnion. A lot of times when we already know that we have bad credit or challenged credit, a lot of people are afraid to even check it. You know, it's kind of like out of sight, out of
Mm-hmm.
mind. Looking for
Mm-hmm.
the umbrella when it's already raining. You usually approach your credit with nervousness when you know you're going to need it. If you got to get a new house, if you're trying to get a house, if you're trying to rent a house, if
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to get an apartment, if your car is on its last leg, if you
Right.
have this amazing company and you're at a point where you want to scale it or just start the company and you don't have cash on hand and capital that you can readily access. And so now you want to see if you can get a small business loan or even a small personal loan to help you, but you're nervous about your credit. Like if you start now, knowing what's on your credit report, then you don't have to be worried
Mm-hmm.
about what's on there later. So you pull your credit reports. Then you go
Mm.
through your credit reports with a fine tooth comb. Take a highlighter, take a pen. In my classes, when people sign up, I give them a book and it says, oh, I have one right here. Let's see if this is one of them. It doesn't have the thing on it, but it says mastermind. And basically, I tell people to keep a notebook with pockets with all of the information with you on your credit healing journey. Because as you reach out to credit bureaus and you reach out to different people to dispute things that may be inaccurate, because the Black Credit Conversation, while I don't repair credit, I help you repair your relationship and thinking of credit. I also educate people about their rights as a consumer, because as a consumer, we have a lot of rights. And a lot of people think that it's about trying to game the system and just get stuff deleted so your credit score goes up. But the
Mm-hmm.
reason why you're trying to dispute things is not just so it goes away. You're disputing it because based upon the Fair Credit Reporting Act, there are certain things that creditors cannot do or report if it's in fact if it's not factual. So
Mm-hmm.
you are not disputing that the account even belongs to you. You're disputing the validity of the information contained. And unless you had a conversation with somebody to help you understand that, then you wouldn't know. I don't have anything
Yes.
against credit repair, but I have something against people just signing a form, giving away their stuff, and saying, "Okay, fix my credit for me." And when you
Mm-hmm.
need you send off for my credit reports as you're sending out these letters, and then I send you my credit report, and you never know, as the consumer, as the person that's offering paying for this service, you don't even know what kind of letter they're sending. You don't know what they're saying to the credit bureaus or the credit reporting agencies. You have no
Mm-hmm.
idea. And so therefore you're not being educated. And if you get back in the same situation, then you still got to go back and pay somebody. But if
Mm-hmm.
education, if you understand why you're sending the letter, if you understand why your rights have been violated, if you understand how you got in a situation in the first place, then once you renew your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you renew your mind, then you can start to change the things that made you get into that situation before. So
Right.
people joke, my students and stuff be like, this is like therapy. You know, and I was trying to figure out a way where I could call it credit therapy, but the word therapy, I take it so seriously that I
Yeah.
would never want to do a disservice. But I have sessions literally all the time where people cry. Not only do they cry, I cry because we share, there's a common denominator among people when you start talking about finances as a
Yeah.
child, especially people of color,
Yeah.
immigrants, people that have come over here, people that are children of small business owners, that there is a fiber and a thread, and that's what the Black Credit
Mm-hmm.
Conversation is about getting us to open up. Because if you know where the root of the problem is, which a lot of it comes from what we learned, you know
Mm-hmm.
I was bad with money and I wasn't a good steward, because not putting my, like my family on blast or anything, but my father was an entrepreneur and he was a hustler, not in the sense of where he took advantage of people, but he did what he had to do to make ends meet. He never worked for a person a day in his life. He worked for himself. So I saw him
Mm-hmm.
have to rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. I saw him have to come home with his shoes off his feet because he sold them. Somebody wanted them and he had to pay his
Mm-hmm.
bills. And it was like, okay, you want this? How much you going? And I saw that. And so
Right.
emulated a lot of that when I was older. When I got to the point where I was on my own, I moved out at 18. I didn't realize I had internalized what I
Mm-hmm.
saw. And I thought it was just people be like, you so independent and you so strong and you so this girl, you can make it work. You a hustler. But the thing was, I didn't realize, see, hustling is cool for a moment, but you need to get to a point where you can work smarter and
Mm.
not harder. You see what I'm saying? You don't have
Yep.
to hustle all the time, because this is one of the biggest takeaways I got from that 145-minute conversation that changed my life 10 years ago. Rich people do not risk their own money to create wealth.
That's right.
They risk and they leverage the bank's money.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that
That's
again.
it.
Rich people do not use and risk their own money. They leverage the bank's money. But see, this is the thing. If you are being taught to stay away from credit, to be afraid of credit, that credit is just a trap, and you never even are taught to consider it to be a tool, then you don't even protect your credit. When you need to make that $20 payment, or you want to go get something to eat, or you got other bills you got to pay, but you already ran up your credit card bills and you need to pay that $25 minimum balance, if you're not conditioned to understand the power of having good credit, then you will go buy something at Wendy's, or go get your nails
Mm-hmm.
done or your hair done or go get some new shoes and disregard that $25 payment and think you'll just make it whenever you get more money, not realizing that that $25 minimum payment that you miss will end up costing you way more, hundreds of dollars
Mm.
to even thousands of dollars, to when you get into home
Yep.
buying, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there
Yes.
is a defined link. There is a direct correlation between the
Mm-hmm.
lack of wealth in the Black community and our lack of education and knowledge of how important credit is. So that's why this is so important to me, because I'm trying to change that narrative. I was
Mm-hmm.
30 years old when I learned the importance of credit. That was 10 years ago. In 10 years, my life has changed exponentially. I can't even tell you how my life has changed. As a result, it's a byproduct of me fixing my credit. And in
Mm-hmm.
return, I have been able to empower my family, and it's changed their lives. My friends, it's changed their lives. And now
Awesome.
I'm grateful that I've been able to impact and help hundreds of people understand, and I'm hoping it may be even at 1,000 now. I'm because I've been working so hard to get people to talk about credit.
Yeah.
Because if we can get comfortable, then you
Mm-hmm.
you you get rid of some of that stigma, right? Some of that
Exactly.
uncomfortableness that happens in our community. Our counterparts, they're not afraid to talk about credit. They're not afraid to talk about filing bankruptcy. They're not ashamed to talk about mistakes at all, credit, financial, whatever. A lot of times they just are
Mm-hmm.
an open book. But historically and culturally, Black people, we have been taught, because we have to be so strong, we have to be
Mm-hmm.
so well put together, that we're not a lot of times afforded the opportunity to have imperfections. Everyone knows they exist, because there's this stigma
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of Black people don't have good credit. I've walked into banks to just sign paperwork that I was got offers to be pre-approved for credit, and I walked in and I saw the look on the lender like, oh, she Black.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a lender one time tell me, because we sit down, like, the Black credit conversation is for everybody. So when I sit down and I start talking to people, and of course, when they see I'm a Black woman, because I've been told by bankers, I've been told at major banks, credit unions, and everything, that it is rare for a person of color, especially the Black credit conversation is new. The
Mm-hmm.
experience has been around for 10 years, because as soon as I got this, I started telling everybody. But I started the Black credit conversation in 2020. And so when I go
Mm-hmm.
and talk to banks and we talk about my credit worthiness, with the business being so young, and me not even at that time, especially in 2020 and 21, 22, not having a lot of revenue for the business, because I wasn't really charging people. I was just like, look, I need people to get this information. And if people couldn't pay me, it's like, all right, I got you, because I need you to be able to get this so you can change your life. And when you change your life, I need you to share this with somebody else, because it's that crucial
Mm-hmm.
to me. It's that
Yes.
serious to me. It's that important to me. So I wasn't making no money. That's when, like, my accountant was like, yo, sis, you need to be a nonprofit, because, like, in a minute, the IRS gonna, like, hit you with, yeah, this is a hobby, man. So
Uh-huh.
I started thinking about that, because also I was playing myself small. But see, this is my purpose. I've done a lot of stuff, been around, but this is my passion and this is my
Mm-hmm.
purpose. So as an entrepreneur, I can relate. That's why your platform is so amazing and it's so important. As a
Mm-hmm.
Black woman, an entrepreneur, someone that's out here trying to help people, the biggest thing I would say is for all of your listeners and the people that are viewing this and that will see it later, try to open your mind up to the possibility of using credit to help you create wealth and leverage that good credit. That if you don't have it now, start today. See, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what happened even before they saw this video. You can start right now. Credit is a time and an information game, right?
Oh yeah.
So if you start today, even if you had the worst credit, let's say you had bankruptcies on there, chapter
Mm-hmm.
7 bankruptcies, and your bankruptcy was going to be discharged in 2 months. Okay, that's 10 years. But guess what? It doesn't take you 10 years to rebound from a chapter 7 bankruptcy. You
Right.
can get a house in like 3 years after a chapter 7 bankruptcy. If you do what you're supposed to do, you can file chapter 13. Our counterparts file bankruptcy all the time, and the huge corporations do it all the time and just fold and open under another name. We've been
Mm-hmm.
taught to be very what's the word? We think it's noble, not
Mm-hmm.
to file, and that God is gonna give us some extra ruby in our crown or our wings will fly a little higher. I don't know what it is, but I want to help
Right.
people right now understand if you have done the best that you could and you did not intentionally get into a whole bunch of debt or try to defraud people. Bankruptcy is a protection that has been put in place to help people. Our
Mm-hmm.
counterparts use it. And also, don't think that you have to be noble and try to file chapter 13 bankruptcy because you're going to be seen in the eyes of creditors as a better human and individual. It's not true. Chapter 7, if everything aligns when you go through the court system and stuff, allows you to eradicate a lot of that debt and start over. 13 means you have to repay a lot of that debt. Okay. So why burden yourself and restrict yourself when you don't have to? Yeah, it stays on your credit report for 10 years versus 7 years. But if you start as soon as you can, when you're allowed to start building new credit, it's not the end of the world. It's not a death sentence. And I don't even know why I brought up the whole bankruptcy thing. That was just something I was led to talk about because in our community, a lot of times
Yeah.
there are certain issues and stuff, but I wanted to put that out there.
We'll
Now,
be
going
Well,
right
back to the
somebody
back.
needed
business.
it. If
Somebody
it
needed
came
it.
up,
Do you
somebody
want
Yeah,
needed to
because
know
I
to
that.
only
So
talk
you
use
about
better.
bankruptcy
Danielle
when
Ross's
somebody asks me
clients
about
get
it.
the
So
keys
I
to
just put that out there
success
because
when
somebody's
it
gonna
comes to
need that.
meeting their bottom line? Reach your intended audience with the proper branding, messaging, and storytelling when you partner with Ultimate Creative.
So, what can Ultimate Creative do for you? Click the link in the description for a consultation and let's get started. Back to the show.
But
Mm-hmm.
for businesses, your entrepreneurs, male, female, the biggest thing is you hear a lot right now about not needing your personal credit to establish business credit. And in
Mm-hmm.
some ways that is true, but it takes a lot longer. And that path is not very smooth all the time. And sometimes it involves you spending more money to get access to other people's lines of credit or to be able to use their lines of credit or a credit history to
Hmm.
help you build yours. Um, this is if you start with your personal credit, if you're building revenue in your business, keeping good, like not even like the most perfect books, but if you have separated your business from your personal, where you
Yeah.
have a business account. That's important. Start establishing business credit by just doing the simple things, getting an LLC or incorporating your business, right? That goes through the
Mm-hmm.
state, contacting the IRS to get a free. You should not be paying anybody to get an EIN number, an employee
Right.
identification number. That is not, you can go online and have that in a few minutes. Stop
That's
paying people
right.
for that kind of stuff. Again, go to Google or go to YouTube University and find out how to do it. So you need a bank account, you need an
Mm-hmm.
EIN, and then you want an email address. I always spend the money to get an actual email address, and then I use like a Gmail as my, my secondary. But have
Mm-hmm.
an email address established for your business, and then every dollar, I tell people this, even if as you make money for your business, you have to take it out because you need it for your livelihood, whether you are only working for yourself and that's your source of income, or it's a side hustle that now you legitimize because you realize there's a path to independence to do it. Go ahead and put that money in that business account. And then a lot of people don't get checks. They'll be like, oh, just give me the debit card. No, get business checks and write a check to yourself to pay yourself, because what you want to do is you want the bank to see income and revenue coming into the bank, because a lot of times your actual bank will be one of the first sources for you to get credit. Now,
Exactly.
one of the tips is when you go, if you already have decent credit, if you already have credit this doesn't need to be repaired, or you're not in need of kind of healing your credit, when you apply for a bank account at whatever bank you use, you can ask them to see if you are pre-approved for any credit or money offers. You can ask them, can you see if I'm pre-approved for a business credit card for this business, or can you see if I'm pre-approved for maybe a line of credit or an unsecured loan? And sometimes the bankers don't even know that that's possible, but there's a way for them to go in without you having to get a hard inquiry on your credit report to see if you're even worthy of having, a small credit line or a credit line when you
Mm-hmm.
establish your bank account. And that is solely on the strength of your personal credit. So there are ways you can do it. Now, if you don't have good credit, then you start healing your credit. You start looking at what's there, going back to the credit report. You look at what's there. You look at if there anything on there that doesn't look like it's right, if the dates are wrong, if the amounts that they're saying that you owe, if a business says you owe $250, but it's supposed to be $200, and then you look at all three of the credit reports and all of it says something different, or two of them say one amount and one of them says another, that's grounds for you to dispute. Because
Mm-hmm.
if the information is being reported correctly, then that information is coming directly from whomever your creditor is. And if the creditor is not giving all three of the credit bureaus or credit reporting agencies the right information, that's grounds for dispute. And if you can dispute it,
Mm-hmm.
that's grounds for deletion. You see what I'm saying? So you got
Right.
to know your rights as a consumer. So you can go
Mm.
Google the Fair Credit Reporting Act and go through it, and it's a lot of information. I mean, it's a lot of information. It's hundreds of pages, but that's why it's important to have knowledge so that you can know how to combat things. What's
Mm-hmm.
another thing? Okay, once you do that, you look at your credit report, you see what's not right. Addresses, phone numbers. If it's not the right information, get it removed. You can
Mm-hmm.
send a letter and ask them to remove the information. I said phone numbers. They do, credit reporting agencies do have access to old phone numbers from you. That's information that sometimes people don't know because they use it to verify you. I don't know if you've ever gone online and tried to get like Experian.com and they say, hey, verify this information isn't you, because they
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of stuff about you. So, but you want to look and make sure that the information that's being reported belongs to you and that the name on the
Yes.
credit report is yours. If you see an alias and it doesn't belong to you, you need to contact Experian and say, hey, I was never called Kiki. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
don't know. I don't know who Kiki is. So I just want to make sure nobody's been using my credit. And I want to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
that name is removed from my credit profile, because that could belong to somebody else that has a similar name. And that could
Mm-hmm.
also, little things like that could impact you, because if the credit bureaus are even confusing you with somebody else, that impacts your credit worthiness in a way, you know.
Yeah.
And then sometimes too, you can ask them to remove very old credit information, like addresses. A lot of times they want to keep all of them, but if you got 15 addresses, they really don't need those 15 addresses. And I mean, honestly, sometimes those old addresses, if they're linked to old accounts that weren't in the best standing, if they remove them for you, that can work out to your advantage, when you go to try to dispute stuff. Because it's like, if they don't see that address anymore, there's a possibility that they'll remove it and say, well, they used to live in 1623 Mockingbird Lane. I don't see Mockingbird Lane on here, so those are some of the hacks people try to teach people. But yeah, work on your personal credit, because if you can
Yes.
get to, so there are credit classifications. You got like deep prime, right? You got deep subprime, prime, then you got super prime. And these impact your ability to get certain funding or credit cards and loans from banks. And I
Mm-hmm.
tell people, one of the biggest things they do is they try to pray their way to a credit card. It's like, if you got a 600 credit score, don't try to apply for an American Express, because God is
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't have nothing to do with that. Okay. He's sitting there looking like, now,
For
sis,
real.
you see what I'm saying? The way
Right.
Google what your credit classification is. Google, like, put my credit score is this. What banks will give me a credit card? Those are simple things you can do that people don't think about. I used to
Mm-hmm.
be one of those people when I was in my early and mid 20s with my 628 credit score. Here I was trying to pray my way and praying, okay, please, Lord, please, Lord, please, Lord, please, Lord. And they'd be like, we're sorry, we cannot approve your application at this time. You will receive a letter. And it's like,
Right.
look, if you know that you got collections, if you know that you have late payments, if you know that you have defaulted on
Mm-hmm.
your student loans, stay away from Discover and American Express and Citibank and Chase. Because what you'll do is, with all these erroneous credit inquiries, you bring down
Mm-hmm.
your credit score. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing that, like, research what kind of credit cards and credit opportunities are there for you to help you heal your credit, because you do want to establish positive credit history. Now, if you have credit where you have defaulted in the past, look at, say, for example, Capital One. Capital One is a great company for people with both deep subprime and also super prime credit, right? They have credit offerings on both ends of the spectrum. But if you
Mm-hmm.
have defaulted on a Capital One is actually one of the few banks I found with working with people that will actually, years later, if your credit history has changed, where it looks like you've kind of learned your lesson and you've gotten
Mm-hmm.
better, in a few years, they'll still approve you for a credit card, even if you never paid them back and you defaulted on an old one. But
Mm-hmm.
I suggest to people, especially if you can afford it, when you want to repair opportunities with businesses, a lot of credit card companies and banks have blacklists. So even all these people out here getting stuff deleted, it doesn't matter if it's deleted, if the banks still know you owe them money, because there's a possibility you can have a 750, 800 credit score, but if you owe a bank,
We'll be right
Right.
you
back.
can still get declined, and that's a
Do
hard
you own a
inquiry that
growing
brings down your
business?
score, and you've wasted
Danielle
your
Mm-hmm.
time.
Ross's
So
clients
some
get the
banks you stay
keys
away
to
from. If you know you
success
owe,
when it comes to
a
meeting
bank,
your bottom
and like
line.
American Express,
Reach
American
your
Express
intended
does not
audience
forgive.
with the proper
I don't care if you
branding,
owe
Mm-hmm.
them
messaging,
$20.
and
You better pay them back
storytelling
their twenty
when you
dollars
partner with
before you try
Right.
to come back up
UltimateCreativ.
in there and ask them for another credit card. They are not
Oh
forgiving
man.
at all. There is no
So, what
grace
can
with
Ultimate
American
Creative do
Express.
for you?
So
Click the
those are
link in
things
the
people need to
description for a
consider. But
consultation
build your
and let's
personal
get
credit, and
started.
then keep good records
Back to
of
the
your
show.
income for your business, or your revenue for your business. And then slowly start to look at the opportunities that are there based upon the qualifications you have. And then get a DUNS number. I'm not sure if
Mm-hmm.
people, still know that DUNS numbers, or Dun and Bradstreet, that's the company that gives you a DUNS number. That is a unique kind of like social security number for your business. It's a number that is
Mm-hmm.
used to report certain credit accounts that you have to a system. The same thing as the credit reporter system, how, the credit bureaus report, the businesses report to the credit bureaus, and then that information is there for them to other businesses to buy the information to
Mm-hmm.
see if we're credit worthy. Dun and Bradstreet is the same way. And they give you a number for free, but then if you want the benefits of them helping you build your credit profile and giving you more visibility as a business, then it costs
Right.
money. So then you pay
Right.
for the paid service. But I tell people, even if you just started out, even if you can't afford to pay for the done service, go ahead and get the free one, the basic account, just so you can get a Dunn's number. Because as you establish your business and you apply for credit, people are going to ask you, do you have a Dunn's number? And history
Mm-hmm.
matters. So starting a business now, even getting your LLC incorporated, your actual official incorporation date, that matters to businesses. So
Yeah.
even if you have something inside of you that you know you're going to do, and you're going to do it in 2 years, you don't have to file taxes on a business that you don't do any business with, or you don't create revenue with. But go ahead and
Right.
establish it, so at least you have that time and that history established. That's another thing people don't realize, because even with
Mm-hmm.
business, just like personal credit, like time is one of the main factors, like that they look at with business
That's
credit.
right.
So that's important too.
Very good. Well, Brandy, I thank you so very much for everything. We could
Yes,
go and talk about this all day, and
I
I'm
know.
sure
I feel
you
like
all
I was
have
talking a lot.
questions. No, no, no. That was perfect. That was perfect because, on the Ultimate Creative Chat, the whole idea is to educate and inspire our
Yeah,
viewers and our listeners. So, ladies, if you are out there, gentlemen, if you're out there watching and listening, please take some notes. When we have our guests on, they are spilling so much good information, and definitely ask us questions in the comments.
yes,
Please put questions in there. We will come back and answer them and see how we can help and how we can further enlighten you, because this is important information that we need to
yes,
know. This
yes,
is very
yes,
important information. So I am very appreciative for you, Brandy, coming here and sharing that information with us. You have any last remarks or any last bit of encouragement that you want to leave someone?
yeah. The last thing I'll say is, don't be ashamed of your past when it comes
Mm,
to finances and credit. Start from right now, and then take advantage of all the free information and all of the resources that are available to you. You do not have to pay someone to repair your credit. You just have to take the time to learn for yourself. And it can be daunting, it can be scary, and it can be emotional. But once you get past all of that, there is a level of freedom and joy and hope on the other side of that. And then as you learn it, make sure you take that information and you pass it on to someone else, so that they too can be empowered, and they'll see the
yes.
difference in your life. And then hopefully this just becomes a chain reaction. So the Black
There you
Credit
go.
Conversation is not a business, but for me it's a
Get in
movement
touch
and something that
today
I
to
want.
find
I
out how
want
you
people to
can
start
become an
referring to,
Ultimate
when they
Creative
start talking
Chat
about
sponsor.
conversations in our community, be like, hey, have y'all had the Black Credit Conversation